Support for Just Seen It comes from Warner Archive Instant. Streaming hard-to-find movies and TV shows direct from the studio at WarnerArchiveInstant.com. Support for Just Seen It comes from Weaver's Coffee and Tea, makers of hand-roasted artisan coffee and hand-blended tea. Learn more at weaverscoffee.com. After a strict upbringing, Winnie and Nelson fall in love.
South Africa belongs to all those who live in it.
When he is jailed for protesting apartheid, Winnie continues his struggle at the risk of her own life.
Mandela's dream of a free society will be kept alive.
Over the years, she suffers many hardships while trying to free her country. In Winnie Mandela.
Hi, I'm Sean.
Hi, I'm Scott.
And I'm Leah, and today we're going to talk about Winnie Mandela, the new film starring Academy Award-winning actress Jennifer Hudson. We've all just seen it. What do we think?
Winnie Mandela is an important story to tell. This is an epic character, but 1 hour and 47 minutes, not really nearly enough time to really get into the character. And this is just not the film that Winnie Mandela deserved. And the result is an episodic, stitched together movie that just isn't as good as it should have been.
Winnie Mandela is a very controversial, incendiary, and important historical figure. And I think you're right that this film really doesn't do it justice. I don't know that I would want it to go any more than an hour and 47 minutes, though.
Well, that's because the direction of the film, it's very earnest. It's sincere to a fault. There are big, epic moments in the film, speeches that Terrence Howard gives as Nelson Mandela, and then eventually that Jennifer Hudson gives as Winnie Mandela. And the speeches should have been powerful enough, but to have this head-beating musical score on top of it, it overstated the obvious, and as a result, I felt like I was being manipulated.
We're told how to feel, yeah.
It was long and drawn out, yet it didn't really tell us anything.
That's the major problem, I think. I mean, and seeing Jobs, I think Jobs is a film that kind of has the same problems, which
Agreed.
is we're talking about a character, but we don't really know what the filmmaker is trying to say about this person.
Part of the problem was that it was sprawling. It did try and cover from her birth, from this very kind of Lion King and Roots moment with the birth of the baby.
Yes.
So it started with that, and then it leads us up to Truth and Reconciliation. Long period of time, the writers just didn't know where to find the story.
Yeah, and the characterizations, I mean, we have her born, and she has a strict upbringing, at least it suggests she has a strict upbringing. Right. But then we cut to her getting on a bus, and her dad says, "I'm actually very proud of you."
Why?
And then her dad disappears for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
we don't get the evolution of that.
Uneven.
Right.
It's
and
uneven
then
for sure.
Winnie Mandela, she certainly has been involved in some controversial things,
Right.
but they all feel shoved into the last 20, 30 minutes of this movie. And she starts out very saint-like. I mean, she's almost a flawless individual in the first hour, hour and a half of the picture, and then suddenly it's like, oh yes, there were some things about her that weren't so great that we need to have in this movie. Let's just throw them in there.
It started as a love story, and I was engaged by the chemistry between Jennifer Hudson and Terrence Howard as Nelson Mandela, but then the controversy about Winnie Mandela, which I had a sort of passing knowledge about, I wanted to know more, and I didn't get that from this film.
This is a film that was finished back in 2011. There was trouble with the production, and then T.D. Jakes came in and kind of rescued the production. And if you don't know, T.D. Jakes is a reverend of a megachurch and has this whole production company that's geared and aimed at Christian-themed productions. And it's that kind of move that I think glosses over a lot of the controversial elements of Winnie Mandela, while at the same time trying to hold her up.
I actually did feel that there was a faith-driven undercurrent to the film. I could feel it, and I didn't know anything about this background at all. But again, flaws aside, it was the performances that won me over because Jennifer Hudson did a great job. It's definitely the most significant big screen performance she's done since she won the Oscar for 2006's Dreamgirls. So here's a movie, Winnie Mandela, where she doesn't rely on her musical background at all. She gave a convincing enough performance where I was drawn to the character. I was drawn to Terrence Howard as well. He gave a very good performance.
I think that you're very forgiving. And I'm sorry, there was just too much of blank cipher going on with her.
I liked her for the most part. I do think it's difficult to do a South African accent, and she did a good job with the accent.
I will say that
Yeah,
that was
I
she
agree.
and Terrence both. I don't know how authentic it is, but I know they were consistent.
Consistent,
and that was important.
There are a couple things I'm wondering. One is she doesn't seem to age. Even though it's over 60 years, they put some new hair on her every few years, and then in the last 15 minutes, suddenly she gets some makeup, even though Terrence Howard is obviously aging. And the other thing is, I don't know if it's the editing or maybe it's the direction. We have certain scenes I felt were missing from this movie. And I don't know why that is. There's a scene where Terrence Howard, as Nelson Mandela, basically says, if they give me the death sentence, we're not going to appeal it. And she says nothing about that.
She says nothing. She kind of goes...
really, where's that scene? She's got to say something, and then the movie does not give us the climax.
Right.
She goes in front of this committee to talk about certain things that have happened, and we don't see what she says. Everything's given to us in the text at the end of the credits.
And that text went on for quite a bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like one text card. It was like 3 of them, 4 paragraphs each. There was a whole lot of story to tell. And they're just like, let's wrap this baby up and tell them what they want to know and send them on their way to a rousing Jennifer Hudson song over the closing credits.
Despite some interesting performances, as a film, Winnie Mandela continues to deny justice to the mother of the nation. Skip it.
Winnie Mandela has its faults, but it has its merits, most of them because of the winning performances. Stream it.
Winnie Mandela is trying to say something, but it fails to be an important work about apartheid. Skip it.
Well, our votes add up to half a ticket, which is a skip it for Winnie Mandela. Cheers.
Cheers.
Poor Winnie.
She'll get over it. She's gotten over much worse. I think she can handle this.
She'll be all right. A winning performance. Oh, yes.
Support for Just Seen It comes from Weaver's Coffee and Tea, makers of hand-roasted artisan coffee and hand-blended tea. Learn more at weaverscoffee.com. Support for Just Seen It comes from Warner Archive Instant, streaming hard-to-find movies and TV shows direct from the studio at warnerarchiveinstant.com.